Hello, everybody.
No, is it? It's not actual.
Not is.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows that it's going on though.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm gonna post this Hangout link to my Facebook. I'm gonna say like, hey everybody. Word.
watch in real time,
Word.
but I thought it recorded.
It does.
Yeah, but you can still watch it as it's happening.
Is there like a delay? Is it like just
Carlos Taylor, the Adams lawsuit. What do you want to use this? Okay.
How's your December, right? Okay.
Typically, I have to change my profile.
I'm down to you, whatever you want.
Yeah, it works out.
Ready? I am ready when you are.
Hang on.
Okay. Do you mind flashing me this? If
I
you prefer not to,
flash
that's
it to you, but I can give it to you.
okay. Someone's watching.
Probably Rod. He just texted me.
Hey, Rod. No, it's actually named Matthew Zhang, but I think Rod's probably coming soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he just said, oh my, like,
Can you tag me in it?
I texted like,
Oh, no.
I texted like 2 weeks ago a link to like fuzzy animals, and he hasn't said anything to me. And so like today I was like, did you not like the link I sent you? And he goes, oh my god, it's around 3 days. And it's live streaming. What's the link?
Oh,
It's gonna say it's on your Facebook.
yeah. I posted it as status. Yeah, I agree.
This is not a debate that's happening in prelims. I'm so pissed at it. I hope
Well,
it's like.
I'm very excited to watch this.
Oh,
I had 3 cups of coffee, so
Word.
we should get.
Alright.
And then to note, I'm gonna say slow, louder, clear twice per speech, and you should default to what I say. Most of the time, it's 10 times in between repeats.
Okay.
And if I look confused, I'm confused.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right.
Oh, someone else joined. It's not Farad though.
Who is that?
I don't know.
It's a hedgehog?
Yeah.
Well, this might be too distracting.
That's all good. I'll make sure not to look.
I want you to go to the game. I want to watch a good debate. I don't want to be like, oh my god, a hedgehog.
I'll be in the zone.
Squirrel.
Hedgehog. All right, we ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have space to do all that you intend to. Now the categories are Butch Queen 1 through 17, and for the girls 18 through 30. As well, please realize that all at one time or another have just walked a ballroom floor. So give the patrons and the contestants a round of applause for nerves. You're vicious motherfuckers that do take nerves.
For New York City's most marginalized LGBT youth, the Bronx Pride Center is one of the few places where anyone cares if they live or die. The lethal combination of poverty and disease makes queer kids and quality home particularly vulnerable. It's here where the underground ballroom drag scene still sizzles. On any given weekday, you can find queer kids hanging on the center second floor, practicing duck walks, hand performances, spins, dips, faced with the task of simply staying alive. They catwalk just above the streets where they can have the shit beaten out of them for acting so flamboyantly. They vogue their spirits content, arms trailing freely. Ballroom drag events account for 80% of the center's first contact with 4,000 youth they service each year, but getting them off the streets and onto the dance floor is an act of triage. Heterosexual society series faced with the actual queer, unsafe, and vulnerable defines the queer person quality experience and never into ontological depth in the heterosexual society. Verbal false transform most basic education experience and more memorization of queer inferiority, a proven social factor of last social street, queer to take fast, reduce flesh, disperse violence, simultaneously police, discipline, exterminated by population and powers, openly haters have their credential protected by convention of straight sided. Lambo 11. Read on queer gender non-conforming those over community code director charge of not such information, sexual identity, gender identity, specific are not, no sexual code identity, trying for 19.8 half 20,000 transgender people in front of interaction with Regina and been in prison or in jail for the justice system. system. Between right from you have less chances in school give powers, policy, highness, and increased police presence, school contribute to criminalization and dropout rates. And over the psychological different other forms of violence, from other forms of violence, law protects the same these forms of violence by treating the criminal operation, but in fact, heterosexuality, violence stuff on the bargaining ball by the career life, the impact helps to never understand what it means to violence, what is nothing. And Stanley, 11, over the body doesn't actually end on the killing must go beyond nothing. Actually, normal the remaining 50 certified the overkill, has nothing of the force, not something more about push back. Has history out of the what it means to violence, what is nothing. The human action is nothing necessary. Life of stories and happens with sexual compromise person in the zone that the word action negated those subject in the liberal democracy overkill is what nothing is overkill is one used to violence, what is nothing black. LGBT participation, most of repression, repression too. Black to be gay, to be black, attracted in more urban neighborhoods by performance acts as a key to actually create space and foster safety, agency focus environments, invest in hero patriarchy, the role of the dollars to invest performatively, and the dollars situation required by this space. I did turning the into a boss and recreating the homeless role of the judges to be a house mother concerned with the well-being and safety of the fellow kids in the house. The house mother function replaces the role of the biological and ensuring both safety and refuge and the kids and her kids while also being an open year with Bailey 11. We're black LGBT people on the bar community, social configuration, housing, kitchen, system is community, undertakes labor action, biological families, multi-level, just the configuration of biological, familial, home action, housing, kitchen, bar members actually wanted to job takes to produce black, queer space, bar housing, action, shelters, those and low, lost souls, and 14 people, habitat, action, members of the community, homeless, and social cultural, undertaking my business, social action, conversation, housing, home action, bar culture, is the performance, and they both out of social ecological values to be on basis of homeless and biological family, while at the same time, action takes actual labor of the affirmation of critique and poker, Mark Carter Poker. Thus, I affirm the resolution of the right to be provided as a gateway to engage in law courts to drag the law for the forgetting of past identities, creation of new identities, and new strategies and adaptation to survive. This is crucial to finding social life, wall creates a sense of belonging, safety, and which allows for self-affirmation, which in the world is inherently against you, critical of peace of mind, psychologically accepted. So, the biggest impact of the form of violence that can be done in psychological violence, the one is the form of self-affirmation, any attempt to fight psychological violence is the status quo, so any risk of the absence of anything is unreasonable, that's affirmative, that's Bailey. Finally, vulnerable cultural manipulation, practice, and ritual performance all brought together to foster a sense of belonging, safety, and social cultural affirmation of the active spatial arrangement to qualify the vulnerable cultural argument as all involved, no matter the location, most importantly, socio-spatial practice and practice, the possible section for queer social transformation, active spatial form of vulnerable culture, as created social spheres should be twisted on the domains of racism, elitism, sexism, homophobia, the socially reconfigured space of all election where members of feeling of free because you want to neutralize adaptation for survival, ultimately, black LGBT people can congregate, community of space, liminality, which is violence, these spaces, liminality, all promotes possibility freedom, even if those moments are normal. And a quiet performance of the self-worth, self-critical, self-reflexive, the physical gap, conversation, dominant processes, compressive performance of all and drive when we actually reflect on our inner self and portray our public alter ego, as Johnson 2K6. A performance of the self-worth, moment, self-reflexive, transform self-relation people need to exercise the control over the production of their images so that they feel empowered to go. So for this franchise, the action recognition, destruction, maintenance, self-image, cultural identity functions as the same. These songs for social compelled to do so, kind of self-delivery, dominant system of performance for specific action, which is the group, acting representatively, turn reflecting back to all public self-informed relation, active social culture, ethical and real and illegal social components that make up the public self. And the boss and lots of members of the community to the futuristic home so they can actually identity they roll without thinking of the piece of life is what they make at the ball. The boss is also homeless for any and everyone to escape the refuge and skills learning the boss team on future survival strategy basketball of all facets like a slasher, 11 years from anyone that's responsible, especially kicking categories. Boys who a ball on my touch mini, which can actually do nothing for us and us whom I'm untrained. I would suspect them to big and let them on drag queens look to nothing. I like those I'm watching and Butch Queen. Why are you moving on here? Funny actor, I'm a big racist. I'm here because I love this more than anything. He says with his eyes twinkling, funny gets him up on their feet. Over the process.
Okay. What do queer bodies that participate in ballroom experience differently from other queer bodies?
What do you mean?
Like, why is the performance of the 1AC focused in particular on ballroom?
So the 1AC talks about that because the Bayes evidence and a lot of the evidence coming up the 1AC talks about the ballroom itself allows for new strategies and also allows for a home place.
Why is it that ballroom would allow for a home place, whereas no other home place would be possible? Like, what about queer bodies that do not engage in ballroom?
So we're not excluding them, rather we're saying that the ballroom allows for a home place because, well, for two reasons. One, because house mothers, replace the biological mothers, which a lot of times in the black family home, the families are not necessarily accepting of these things. It's part of a black culture where there's not necessarily open arms to the queer community, to the LGBT community. Also, though, because queer and ballroom culture allows for you to put past what society sees you as, for the most part, it allows you to engage in what you want to portray yourself as. And Johnson says it's really important to control the actual production of your own images.
So if straight bodies were to participate in this exact same home space, would that undermine the ability of that home space to be a home space?
What do you mean by that?
Like, would the home space have to be exclusively queer in order for it to be viable?
I don't think you have to exclusively look. Okay, so that's a double-sided question, right? It depends on what you mean by that. Like, how do they engage in that?
That's fine. So you say that there are queer bodies that are in the Bronx area that are suffering from poverty and disease. What does your performance do to help those people? How would the right to be forgotten solve any of those harms?
Are you talking about at the beginning?
Yeah, when you talk about
Fire Center.
Yeah.
So that was talking about how talks about how like the ball scene and just having that space, right? Like not even just like ball, like having that space in the spaces where like these balls are located, right? Allows for other things. So for instance, at the bottom, where I talk about how like the 4,000 youth that they service each year in the Bronx Fire Center, 80% of that, right? Their first contact is with a ball scene when like the Bronx Fire Center hosts a ball,
So,
or like they house the balls when they get in like contact with these 4,000 youth that they serve.
That's fine. So you say that the performance of the 1AC is self-reflexive. What is self-reflexive about you affirming the right to be forgotten? Do you consider that to be fundamental to your identity? Or,
what do you mean?
Like you say you affirm the resolution. How is that essential to your performance?
So I say that, like you said, wait, I'm sorry.
You said you affirm the right to be forgotten.
Correct.
In what way do you affirm the topic?
So I say that I affirm like the resolution, like to the right to be forgotten, is a gateway to engage with all.
How so?
Because it's saying that like all culture allows you to get your past identities and the identities in which society paints you and paints on you. Right?
So you don't defend like a right to be forgotten, but where like Google and internet searches come into play.
I think that part that takes into ball culture. If anything, you can see what happens with Facebook when they try to force drag queens to essentially like, take down their stage name.
Okay, I'll take that. There's like noise, but I'm sure people are being like, pretty silent. Yeah, they're in the call. Yeah. Not sure.
I don't think the round started yet.
What?
Hey, stop it.
Yeah, guys, we're trying to work. Okay, 103. So the order is one off this. Sorry. Actually, I'm just gonna take a couple more seconds for us to grab one more card. Okay, 51. So the order is again one off hits. Yep. No, not really. Okay, so is everybody good? Alright. Civil rights rely on a very individualistic notion of the subject. This is the underpinning of capitalism. He links because he says that you should affirm the right to be forgotten, which is deemed a civil right Molitor. Political emancipation certainly represents great progress. It is not the final form of human emancipation, but it is the final form of human emancipation within the framework of the prevailing social order. Civil rights are limited because they do not go beyond egoistic fantasies separated from the community wholly preoccupied with its private interests. This is because the bourgeois subject's freedom is merely theoretical, abstracted from the constrained conditions of material life. Marx defines all of civil life in modern society as egoistic, and capitalism thrives on identity politics but do three. Each identification creates a figure for the market, what inexhaustible potential for mercantile investments of women, homosexuals, and disabled. A social image authorizes new products, specialized magazines, improved shopping, advertising networks. Capitalist deterritorialization requires constant reterritorialization. Capital demands identities in order for its movement to homogenize its space, and specifically the House understanding of privacy as non-interference with acquired bodies in a home space strengthens the notion of private property. Embedding individuals into a market system which simultaneously undermines their privacy turns the case Almer 13. In the liberal understanding of privacy, the sovereign individual should have freedom to seek her own interests without interference. Therefore, the concept of privacy fits neatly into the concept of private property. The debater of privacy advances the idea of possessive individualism. Human essence is considered proprietorship of herself. The overall aim of society and liberal democracy's protection of this property. Therefore, society is considered as consistent relations with proprietors. The outcomes of a competitive and possessive market society. In a market society, economic and political actors are threat to privacy, undertake surveillance and exercise violence to control certain behaviors. Corporations, of course, individuals for accumulating profit. For illustration, the example of Google and DoubleClick. In the outline, DoubleClick is one of the main projects of Google. DoubleClick collects personal data and supports targeted advertising. This can be seen as a threat to online privacy because Google and DoubleClick collect invisible personal information. 3 impacts. A. Resisting capitalism is our ultimate ethical obligation. Status quo does not only serve to legitimize the system, Zizek and Dolly 4. Our ethical political responsibilities confront capitalism and its esteemed anonymization. The millions who are subjugated by a neoliberal ideology attempts to nationalize capitalism by presenting its outcomes, winning, losing its matter of sound judgment. In neutral marketplace, the human cost terms from heavy gold poverty, great life changes cannot be calculated within the existing economic rationale, and the consequence, social exclusion remains vicified and nameless. B. Capitalism causes environmental class. Myth 13. Capitalism is the main driver of ecological collapse, from climate change, resource overconsumption to pollution. The engine that has powered 3 centuries of accelerating development is roaring out of control. Locomotive corporations aren't necessarily evil, but they can't help themselves. Shell can't help but pollute Nigeria and the Arctic and cook the climate. That's what shareholders demand. Monsanto and DuPont have no choice but to wipe out bees and extinguish crop diversity to steer the grip of the world's food supply. This is how giant corporations are wiping out life on Earth. The world's climate scientists tell us we're facing a planetary emergency. Despite the alarm bells, no corporation and government can oppose growth. Marxists have never had a better argument against capitalism than this inescapable and apocalyptic contradiction. As long as we live under capitalism, growth has take priority over ecological concern, and environmentalism is an essential starting point for solidarity with all black bodies. Cone 7. Blacks and defenders of the youth are fighting the same enemy. Logic led slavery and segregation, colonization, and apartheid is the same led to ravaging natures. Logic defines everything in terms of contribution to development of white world supremacy. Leaders in the mainstream environmental movement are mostly middle and upper class whites. We can promote genuine solidarity and thereby enhance quality of life for the whole inhabited earth. C. Humans are species beings. This is an ontological reason to reject capitalism. Civil rights in a capitalist system will never ensure human dignity to the app. Can't solve their impacts. Hudson 8. Self-consciousness allows humans to separate from immediacy. Vincent yet in conscious phrase individualistic. Even Marx suggests humans are species beings characterized by social organizations as well as free conscious production. Humans not only produce what is necessary for their existence, but then understand themselves as members of those species, enabling them to produce socially and consequent under capitalism. Human beings are alienated from species being commodities, confronted as alien rather than expressions to create a potential alienated labor under capitalism. Requires humans to produce and maintain themselves like animals. Human beings are pitted against one another in the struggle for survival, reducing competition rather than universal freedom. Human rights granted by contract with the nation become abstract concepts that have little bearing on material lives on free citizens. Civil liberties are a fiction, stripping them away as mere formality when the workers already little more than bare life. And the alternative is to reject the app's conception of privacy in the way in which it ought to be protected. Critical analysis of privacy in relation to capitalism challenges the app's egoistic subjectivity, recognizes that capitalism cannot truly protect privacy, and is a starting point for social change. Almer 13. Corporations and state institutions undertake mass surveillance, integrated definitions, advanced possessive individualism, define the private individual in modern society. There's a contradiction between privacy and surveillance. Therefore, integrated definitions of state privacy As a crucial value within a society, is not able to fulfill this value critical contribution to internet privacy sites is not what to advance ideas of possessive individuals in a critical notion as who benefits from the contradiction between privacy and surveillance and critically analyze threats to privacy is important aspects for accumulating provident privacy protection, income equality, property interests, power and ownership structures. The critical notion of internet privacy wants to put privacy first in the larger context of societal problems, public discourse to establish social transformation, starting a participatory society, and the alternative is self-reflexive. I am not a member of the lower class, but one of the individuals who the capitalist system expects to fall in place. Participation in the system's guards is key to revolution. Zin 3. Alienation is spread upward into feelings above the poverty line. Surveys since the 70s show 70 to 80% of Americans distrustful government, business, military distrust is spread among the middle classes. The middle class is increasingly insecure economically. The system is then driven by profit to build skyscrapers for insurance companies, while the cities decay. The threat of unemployment is spread to white-collar workers. Americans might be ready to demand not just more reform laws, but radical change. The very guards the system depends on to crush such a movement would be among the rebels. The servants of the system would refuse to work to continue the old deadly order and would begin using the very things given by the system to keep them quiet to dismantle that system while creating a new one. Case. Reject his role of the ballot because his focus on personal experience kills democracy and causes war and oppression. Borton 5. Emphasis on empowerment through intimacy can duplicate power networks that exclude females and anonymize the privileging of experience mirrors. Justifications used by dominant groups to use their own beliefs as templates for hegemonic social practices to oppress. Consider comments of Bush made before Rocky claimed war and empire. Now, when we act, we create our own reality. The attempt to eliminate flaws by limiting the entire process is like trying to eliminate heart disease by limiting hearts. This public argument of the harder true democracy supplanting the models jeopardizes the lifeblood of democracy itself. And ballroom is not uniquely key. There are plenty of core bodies that face the exact same oppression that do not participate in ballroom dancing. Even if ballroom dancing is a home space, there's nothing that the Right to Be Forgotten does to promote that home space to other core bodies. There might be core bodies that are so excluded by the system that they might not even know that they have the opportunity to participate in ballroom. Also, capitalism is the root cause. He describes at the beginning of the 1AC how there are core bodies that are suffering from poverty and disease. That is because the capitalist system makes it increasingly difficult for poor core bodies to afford medical services and lift themselves out of poverty. So capitalism is the root cause of all the impact. Impacts that he talks about. Also, the fact that the ballroom is a home space would be influenced by capitalism. Whereas you have the people that are running the ballrooms that are probably in it to try and make a living. That shows that capitalism is tainting the home space, which means the alternative is a prerequisite to ensuring that the home space would be viable for core bodies. Additionally, the right to be forgotten kills privacy. It underlines online anonymity. Rookman 12. RTBF is impossible in an open internet because both readers and speakers often enjoy anonymity, making reliable and consistent identification of potential objections published as possible. RTBF will require verifiable ID identification info online. RTBF will represent tremendous political privacy, and this is key for core bodies because you may have core bodies that are speaking anonymously on the internet about the problems that they are facing. RTBF would lead to forced outing, whereas it would require that Google have an adequate understanding of who all these anonymous people are, which is uniquely bad for core bodies over the long term. See Cross. He said that the solvency for ballroom dancing had to do with Facebook, even if the evidence is about Google, it still logically applies. Also, RTBF kills privacy because of the Streisand effect, Turk 14. RTBF is the exact opposite effect. The Guardian received emails from Google notifying them the articles have been removed. Pessin at the BBC received the same notification. Both outlets want to publish stories about the forgotten articles, which made everyone remember them more. The Streisand effect, too much effort to distract attention leads to greater awareness, as Google only removes search results, not pages themselves. Traffic to the articles, no doubt rebounded with vigor. Next journalists with a convenient hyperlink. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a free speech enthusiast coming up with a way to collate missing search results. Also, all of the impacts of the critique prove that the role of the ballot should not only be about core bodies, but should also be about a revolution that helps the working class. We should not have a narrow role of the ballot that only looks at core bodies, given that all my evidence proves that we have a moral obligation to reject capitalism, and also the capitalism's bad for the environment, which is key to solidarity, environmentalism is key to solidarity with black bodies, species, beings, so on. All that matters. Cross it. I identify as straight.
No, but I mean, like, what is your gender identity?
My gender identity, male.
Okay, what do I identify as?
I don't know what you identify as. Okay, I don't know you that well personally.
I think it's appropriate for you to constantly reference me as he in your speech.
I apologize. I'm just used to that from other debate rounds.
So why do you think that's okay?
I definitely don't think it's okay. I apologize completely. Cool. I don't think it should implicate the ballot. I think that my argument should.
So my next thing is, you talk a lot about like, what the role of the ballot should be, but when do you give an exact text of the role of the ballot?
I don't give an exact text of the role of the ballot.
Should be.
But I think that the Zin 3 evidence clarifies where I think that the debate should be focused.
Which is capitalism?
Yes.
Okay,
but also,
really quickly, does capitalism essentially a lot like, I don't know, like, is one of the effects of capitalism like poverty and things of that nature?
Yes.
Okay, so reference, like, if we address poverty, would that be sufficient of, like, addressing capitalism as well?
Simply
not just that, but like...
Simply minimizing poverty would be a reformist move that does not lead to the systemic and revolutionary changes that the Zin evidence says are key.
Okay, cool. You also talk about how we need to do these things, like we need to resist capitalism, we need to do all these things, but you said you're not part of the community. So I don't understand where does we come from?
Well, the Zin 3 evidence says that those who are not in the lower classes are beginning to recognize that capitalism is a problem.
Congratulations, you recognize it's a privilege.
Well, the Zinn 3 evidence says that privileged individuals need to join in the revolution because the privileged individuals are the ones that are expected to crush those movements and keep in line with the system.
Okay, so my thing is, you're supposed to engage in the movement. How exactly do you engage in the movement?
Well, I would hope that once the movement arises, I definitely am willing to join it. For example, Engels, who wrote a lot with Karl Marx, was a member of the bourgeoisie, but he was a bourgeois intellectual in the sense that he, once the working class revolted, the exact text of the alternative is to reject the ass approach to, let's see, I'm going to get the exact text. I was giving the gist of it. So it's, the alternative is to reject the ass conception of privacy and the way in which it ought to be protected.
Okay, reject the ass what?
Conception of privacy. And the way in which it ought to be protected.
Alright, so when you talk about privacy and protecting privacy,
well, you said in CrossX that, on Facebook there are issues with people in these ballroom home spaces, being revealed or like not being able to protect their personal information. Also,
no, that's not what I said.
But that's what I interpreted what you said.
So
but also,
you interpreted what I said. So I think that so.
Well, you can clarify in the 1AR what you meant, and I would love to hear. But I still think that the critique links to your app.
How? What's the first link to the critique?
Well,
civil what?
The Model 4 evidence says that civil rights, like the right to be forgotten.
Civil rights. Okay, is the right to be forgotten civil right in the status quo?
No, but okay, the resolution is the right to be forgotten. Well, no. Also, the European Court of Justice ruling said.
Yeah. Did you explicitly give a
I gave an explanation.
Like, you talked about the role of the ballot. Like,
I didn't give an explicit role of the judge, but I think the judge's role is tied to the ballot. Yeah, that's the Badu 3 evidence.
You should talk about all black bodies, like the bottom of the capital. How can you speak for all black bodies?
I'm not trying to speak on behalf of all black bodies, but I definitely think that. Well, what?
How can you?
Well, first of all, my author James Cone is black, and he is talking about how the same logic used to justify environmental destruction is the same logic that led to slavery, colonialism, imperialism, and so on.
Okay. Cool.
Like you have black bodies in developing countries that are being screwed over the resources. The Borton evidence says that focus on personal identity causes war and oppression because you have the dominant oppressors that use that same logic to justify their hegemony. It also gives the example of George Bush thinking that with, yeah.
Alright, so the order would be based in F.
Okay.
Oh. Really rolled out.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
You there?
Yep.
Everyone who's watching this?
I guess they
It
are.
don't matter.
Oh well.
The offense. But I think they matter as people.
Yes. Okay. The role of the vowel in this space to address our best performance methodology situation the core body in this space. Now I once again do this through turning the base to the ballroom, creating the home place. Even now a couple things. One is that Tomasi tries to actually address this thing. I'm focusing on personal identity. We need to reject this and that the ballroom culture is not key. But one, he cannot tell me what is key for my people and what is not key. But also though is that the fact that he says the ballroom isn't key is not going to cut it with Bailey and also talk about how it is a home place, also a survival space in which queers and queers can actually go to actually engage in these types of things. Now also though, even if the bar space is not, even if the ballroom space, like even if the argument does not necessarily mean that the role of the ballot goes away, that the role of the ballot goes away. He says that focusing on personal identity is that, but look to the Johnson 2K67 and talks about self-reflexivity and how we need to control the images of our bodies, but also how a performance of the self for the self is a moment of self-reflexivity, which is key to contesting dominant oppressive system, which one is going to be really, really necessary to me, that even if he doesn't think that this is necessarily good or good for him, that is not really meaning anything. It's the fact that it's for the self, which means that if I win, that is a form of self-affirmation, that the one they see is a form of self-affirmation, that is sufficient for you to affirm. That's so conceded out of the actual coming out of the one they see. Now also though, John Johnson talks about so also Johnson gives a really good defense of performance, talking about how it is a tool strategy. It also creates agency and creates all these things. Like that focus on personal identity is really bad. One is not, we're not talking about identity, rather we are talking about subject positionality in debate. In the actual real world. So you're literally your identity blocks will not be sufficient here. Now also though, talks about the ballroom not being key, but once again he is not part of the community. So you can't tell me what is not, he has not read a single card from an author part of this actual community that says that the ballroom is not key. Therefore, do not trust his non-inclusive policies. Also, he talks about how people who actually allow the balls to take place or just want to make a living. Once again, you do not know what the hell you are talking about. How the hell can you speak for other people? You do not know these things. The Bronx Bison is made completely off of donations completely made off of donations and off of sponsors that they get from people. And that's a lot of the time come from actually ballroom culture and things of that nature. But also though, sometimes ballrooms do not necessarily have to happen in a typical ballroom, right? They can happen on the alleyways and in the street tunnels and in the alleyways. That's exactly what we are talking about, is that Bailey says that ballrooms do not necessarily have to be in one particular pace, while they are always constantly changing. That is why we are allowed to be these fugitive type of acts. Now also, he doesn't really give you an explicit role of the ballot text, and then you're always going to be referring I'm the only one that's giving you any type of text. So even if he's winning the role of the ballot, you still look to the role of the judge, that you have to be a house mother, because that is essentially like you have to be a concerned with the actual value and with the safety of your children, which means that if I win any type of link that the ballroom culture that you being a house mother is essential, that means that I am sufficient to negate the fact that he's not contested. I turn this debate into a ballroom scene, means that I am winning. So means that you as a house mother must go after. Now also go to the actual capitalism critique. Now one, there's no reason why we cannot do a perm on this. Like look to the top of the actual one they see where I talk about how poverty and discrimination are two lethal combinations, which means that literally it is going to be a perm. So you can't perm methodology, but literally it was not so much about adding something, rather the perm was always already the add. That is exactly what I am saying. You are not doing anything new. Also though, he said his link to capitalism and civil rights, but literally it is not a civil right in the status quo, especially in the American spaces, which is what we're talking about. The EU does not really matter here. Now also, here's the Lambo 11 evidence and the Stanley 11 evidence. So I'm coming from the case, but that's going to outweigh all of his things, because Stanley, his impact focus never understand what it means to balance and what is nothing, which means you cannot take into account, which means you can't outweigh shit. Now he says capitalism is the root cause, but something that is not done anywhere, it's not really done anywhere. And also, you can literally reject them on the actual gender language that you constantly use. That is literally what oppressive bodies do. Always misgender people and you don't know shit.
Okay, I'll take the remainder of my breath. I think I had like a minute to wait or something.
I had 51.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then you said,
Oh, word, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Is that what?
Yeah. Okay, so quickly on the K where he makes. So actually, I'll answer when I get on the critique page. Starting on the case and then the critique.
Is it case and critique?
Yeah.
I'm starting on the case.
On the forced outing turn.
Okay.
All right, is everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Even if he wins the roll about, I have a conceded case turn. RTBF leads to force outing because it undermines online anonymity. That's Berkman 12. Even if he did not talk about privacy in the 1AC, he conceded the implication that I established from the Berkman 12. That because RTBF would entail that individuals will lose their anonymity. That means that bodies who are speaking about their subject position when they are online would be forced to disclose who they are, and that would give a hint as to what their subject position is, which means even if he says that the focus of the debate is subject position rather than identity, that you still prefer my offense here because it is a conceded case turn, also a win, that self-reflexivity should not be the basis for the debate. If I win that, then that means you vote neg on this case turn, because you should evaluate the substantive arguments in terms of whether the right to be forgotten is good or bad rather than the self-reflexivity question. I'm just going to plug in my computer for a sec.
Okay.
Ballroom's not an inclusive method. He's conceded that there are sometimes core bodies who are not going to be engaging the ballroom method, which is the reason why he's speaking for other core bodies as well. He says that I don't know anything about how ballroom operates, but I'm making an intuitive argument that obviously not every single core body participates in ballroom dancing, whether it's literally or figuratively. You would have to know about literal ballroom dancing and participate in that in order to participate in fugitive spaces like alleyways. Those already assume that you were a ballroom dancer participating in that sort of method. Even if he says that he tries to make the debate a ballroom, that is not inclusive. He says he is inclusive politics, that is false, because that does not include all core bodies. I'm not trying to speak on behalf of the oppressed. I'm not precluding the oppressed from speaking. I just think that oppression is bad, and that if you say that your politics is inclusive, it should actually be inclusive. So that is an additional case, and that's a reason to negate now the Borton 5 evidence. Focus on personal experience causes war and oppression. That is the Borton 5 evidence. He says that performance is good because it's key to agency, but he has zero explanation why this is actually the case, whereas my evidence is really strong in the question of how an emphasis on empowerment through intimacy is bad, because it mirrors the same justifications used by dominant groups who use their own beliefs as a template for hegemonic social premises to oppress people. My evidence also gives the example of George Bush, who claimed that now that we're an empire, we create our own reality. The oppressor appeals to their personal experience and appeals to their subject position in order to further oppression, which means the focus of the debate should not be self-reflexivity, but it should be a question of the merits of right to be forgotten, because he does say that he affirms right to be forgotten, and he has no explanation of the Johnson evidence. Do not let him extrapolate it into 2AR, but also the Johnson evidence says that performance is good, but you can still have a performance without the self-reflexivity component. You can perform making debate a ballroom space without saying that you cannot speak about the core body unless you're on yourself. Then go to the top of the 1AC, where I said the capital argument. Capitalism is the root cause of the harms that he says occur to core bodies. When he refers to the Bronx at the top of the 1AC, he says that core bodies are afflicted by poverty and disease. He's conceded that capitalism is the root cause of both of these. A point is core bodies that are poor will not have access to medical services. B point is that core bodies will not be able to lift themselves out of poverty because the fundamental antagonism, because the bourgeoisie and the working class. This means even if I did not have an explicit role of the ballot, you vote nay to reject capitalism, because that's consistent with his role of the ballot, and that in order to truly be inclusive of core bodies, we have to reject capitalism. So if capitalism is the root cause, even if capitalism is not in and of itself the independent priority for the debate, rejecting capitalism is instrumental to linking it in with role of ballot. Also, even if I don't have an explicit role of ballot text, he conceded the analysis that I did do on case that my impacts and the critique do prove that when you're evaluating the spirit of the role of ballot, that it should also be inclusive of other oppressed groups like the working class. So even if I don't have a text, it's going back to that. Now the critique. He says you reject my gender language, but he doesn't have an explanation of why my gender language is an independent reason for me to lose. Also, I apologize in cross-ex. I'm normally used to using those pronouns, but I care about what I care about what Carlos has to say, which means you don't reject the gender. You don't reject me simply because of the pronouns. Now the Zin 3 evidence. Even if he wins the I keep on saying he. I apologize. I'm used to that. Even if Carlos wins the self-reflexivity is the basis for the debate, the Zin 3 evidence says that my alternative is also self-reflexive, and that I am one of the guards of the system that is expected to fall in line with the capitalist system. We need individuals in the middle class and the upper middle class to join in the working class revolution in order to solve for the harms of capitalism, which means that if I win the capitalism is bad, you vote next. I also have a self-reflexive performance, which means the Johnson evidence is not unique, even if it is specific to core bodies, because I also have that performance. He says purge you both because he talks about poverty in the AC, but you see cross-sex. Just because Carlos talks about poverty in the AC does not mean that Carlos is talking about capitalism. See cross-sex. I explained that simply minimizing poverty is a reformist effort. It's not a question of systemic efforts to actually address capitalism, which means perm decay does not apply. Also, the app is inconsistent with the alternative. The alternative is to reject the app's conception of privacy and how it ought to be protected. We need to analyze the harms that the app talks about in the context of capitalism. Also, the framing issue for the debate is privacy, and that the forced outing turn is additional proof of this, that individuals would be outed on the internet. The Allman 13 evidence says that privacy is impossible in a capitalist system. Privacy matters because of the question of forced outing. We need to analyze privacy in the context of capitalism, because privacy can never be truly protected in the capitalist system. But also, he's conceded that humans are species beings. This is an ontological reason to reject capitalism. That is the Hudson 8 evidence. He's also conceded that civil liberties are a fiction in the world of the app. As long as the capitalist system thrives, that's the Hudson 8 evidence, which means he has no app solvency. He also says that right to be forgotten is not a civil right in the status quo because it's not in the United States, but the right to be forgotten is defined as a civil right. It is construed as a civil right. If the United States were ever to have the right to be forgotten, they would treat it as a civil right because the European Union did so. So extend them all for evidence that civil rights are capitalist, because even if they represent a form of human emancipation, they do not represent the final form of human emancipation, which means even if he wins 100% solvency for core bodies, vote neg to reject capitalism, that outweighs, because he's conceded in my evidence that only a rejection of capitalism is the final form of human emancipation. The Zizek and Jolly 4 evidence, which was conceded, says you have a moral obligation to reject every instance of capitalist ideology, because capitalism sweeps social exclusion under the rug, so it outweighs any social exclusion that he talks about in the act. You gotta reject capitalism first.
How do you reject capitalism?
Through the alternative, which analyzes your app in the context of larger structural issues of capitalism. Also, if your app is self-reflexive, so is my alternative. That's the Zin 3 evidence.
Alright, so it's going to start on the app, and then we'll look at the... The fact that Tomasi still actually concedes the role of the judge is going to be a game over issue for him. He does not answer the actual role of the judge. That you are going to be a house mother. Now Bailey talks about how the house mother must be concerned with the actual with the safety and well-being of her actual students in the house mother. And the fact that I have identified in this actual course but Tomasi is not means that he is not part of the house, which means that you do not care about the actual impacts of what she is talking about, which means that you as a house mother must care about me, which means that that is an independent reason why you should be voting as that I am one. In fact, that I am being self-reflex. I am a self-affirmation, and per the Johnson evidence, per the actual Johnson evidence, and per the actual Johnson evidence and the Bailey evidence, that is an independent reason why you are going to be voting ab. That is literally going to be conceded coming out of the actual 1AC. That is voting the a priori, even if to my when any part of that is not a reason why you're going to be voting neg. Now, also though, go to the I'm kind of going to go down the line by line. First, Going back on my mind, he says that some parts want to engage in the ballroom culture. This I feel like I answered this question already. Is that we're not mandating that you engage in ballroom culture, rather it is a survival space in which you can choose to, and you can actually it's a place of refuge. I am not forcing you to do anything. Rather, I am saying that it is a place where you can decide to take home place. You can decide to actually take refuge. You are misunderstanding the fact that you call people ballroom guests is probably a reason why you're ignorant as hell on this actual topic. You probably should stop talking. also talks about the oppressor and talks about personal identity. But once again, you are not understanding what exactly we are saying. How when we are in the ballroom spaces, one, we are actually having those arguments, but also though is that it's not necessarily about identity, rather about positionality, where you stand in your actual image. That is literally what Johnson is also talking about. How you can actually control the images. I mean, the way in which you actually have your images produced. Now, also so that you can still have a performance without self-reflexivity. This is once again where you're ignorant as hell in the active topic. Johnson talks about how you cannot separate theory from practice. You cannot separate performance from self-reflexivity. That is literally what performance is a moment of self-reflexivity. That is exactly what Johnson is talking about. You should probably read the limit before you try to extend my cards for me. Now, also, yeah. Also, though, I'm winning on the role of judge. I'm winning on the role of the judge. Also, if I'm not winning the role without any none of his performance arguments and his self-reflexivity, he doesn't have anything where his critique actually comes from. Go to the critique. The concession of the actual Stanley 11 evidence is going to probably really essential where it doesn't have any type of impacts coming out of capitalism whatsoever. No impacts coming out of capitalism whatsoever. It talks about overkill, how we cannot understand what it means to be violent, what is nothing, which means none of your actual impact calculus can understand what it was required by the goals to go to the current back. Going to probably demolishing it at first is the fact that he says that he's going to that he can actually join the movement. His Zinc art talks about he needs to join the actual movement after the movement arises. Well, literally, the one see is that movement arising. We have to arise before you can actually join the movement. Also, though, the term you both literally saying that capitalism is a root cause of all these things. I'm not denying it, right? I'm saying I start with capitalism. Also, the fact that he does not have a link. He talks about civil rights. I don't defend the civil rights. You don't have a link.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure. Or like the civil rights capitalist argument. Okay. Okay. I mean, I can temporarily turn off the.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I needed a second, sorry.
Yeah, I will. As soon as I do.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Thanks. I want to make the right decision. Yeah, probably. I think we're
I'm sorry, just give me a second.
Alright.
I'm doing my best. I appreciate your promptness.
I'm doing my round.
No, I know. I appreciate you. Just give me a second.
Alright.
Okay, you can hand that back to Monty.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair.
If it is, then I will do the quick decision, and then we can talk later.
I'm surprised they didn't power pair it.
Okay, that's what I thought too, but yeah. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't power lag.
Okay.
And it's lag previous.
Yeah.
Almost done. Just checking every little point. We'll come back. Okay. Before I start, unless it makes from it's really important to me that I refer to you guys as y'all exactly as you wish. So you guys have so do you all prefer Carlos and Monty to make it clear? Yes?
Sure, yeah.
Perfect, okay. It's just very important to me that I respect that. I almost asked before the debate, like sometimes do. Okay. All right, a couple things. So this was an astounding debate for round 3 of the first tournament on this topic. So hopefully a lot of people got to watch. It was really good. A couple things of how things broke down. So I think the points are very, very high. This round is engaged very, very well. A couple things. I think the biggest issue for me is a method of choices. And so I go through kind of layering the debate for myself rather than having a pre-established layer as determined by you. I'm very clear that I would much rather defer to the one that y'all set up. And so, insofar, I wish that there was a little bit more to spend either the bottom of the NR layering the debate specifically. And so I kind of am forced to kind of go through top down how I see the debate. And so if there's a disagreement in how I view debate, it is probably because, again, I analyze it in a different prioritization than y'all.